Welcome to the Mod State podcast. All the fits that make news.
By the way, this would be what, the 281st, 282nd episode?
Well, I heard Biden. Joe never got more than
Oh, yeah.
And now, your hosts.
So, and you'll let us discuss education. It's been a while, obviously. And it's kind of hard to lead in. It's been a little while, but diving right in, I was thinking, and you and I were talking about this, that it's rather difficult to describe or give a synopsis of, hey, this is what we want to cover because this is what's going on in the world. Because as I understand it, it's more a question of what's not on fire, right?
That's what I feel. That's how I feel. There's so much to keep track of that I don't feel like I can be a good, well-informed citizen on most of the topics that are floating around right now.
And that includes, obviously, we're talking about massive dysfunction, Capitol Hill. You can fact check me, but I believe it's 1860. That's the last year. We passed 27 bills signed into law this last year. That's the fewest since, I heard 1860, but maybe it was 1991. I mean, but either way, it's been a while. Double digits. I mean, we can't even agree on a budget for the DOD anymore. It's you hate to be a purveyor of bad news and be Dr. No, right? But I mean, well, you don't necessarily, but I don't know. It's a strange time because I feel like, leading into one of the main topics we wanted to discuss tonight, leading into former President Trump, it feels like on one hand, like I see the legal dilemma there, but I also feel like with regard to the supporters on the side, it feels like dealing with a battered, someone in a shelter, in a sense. Like, you don't understand him like we do. You don't know him like us, because it's like it's an ongoing series of outrages. And yet that's almost why this person is loved. So it builds the case for why they're not liked, right?
Are you speaking to Trump supporters and their support of him feeling that way?
No matter what.
Oh, yes. The unconditional support.
Right. They can justify, you don't know him like we do. You could say these awful things, just gave you a black eye, and yet, he loves me. I know he does. When it's like, hey, you already know. So that's why we kind of cut that portion of our discussion short. But weigh in a little bit, like with your thought that we discussed as far as some of the pressures, obviously wanting to legally, I don't want to say get Trump, because I don't think that's your perspective.
So the whole thing with Trump, it's been very interesting because personally, I don't trust the guy, but I also don't trust Biden. I think they're both pretty shady. What's been interesting to me is the way that the individuals who are trying to bring Trump down, because there are individuals trying to do that, or groups, the way that they've done it has been interesting to me. Was it Colorado and what other state tried to was it Maine that took him off the ballot? And the timing of it was just strange to me. Maybe I don't understand it, but it seemed like it was too far in advance. Like, it was far enough in advance where if that was overturned, then you wouldn't have any other recourse to keep him off the ballot. So if you were trying to do that and you were trying to be sneaky about it, I feel like closer to the election cycle, unless there was a deadline. I didn't look into it, but the timing of all of this is just very rushed, and it doesn't seem well crafted.
I mean, do you feel like, and this is by no means any sort of trial question, because I frankly, I don't know what to think at this point, but do you feel like that at all kind of feeds into the narrative that some of his supporters maintain of, you see, no matter what?
Oh, absolutely. Not only would they support him no matter what, and they would flip anything to support him no matter what. But when you use this as kind of like a witch hunt, because it's going to feel like a witch hunt to Trump supporters, it's going to make them that much more entrenched in that ideology, in that support, in that identity that he really provides for them.
And the staying power is in spite of or because of the controversies?
I'm going to say both, depending on each supporter.
Well, and
I'm sure there's people.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sure there's people who are going to support him because of the controversies. That's going to entrench their beliefs. And then there's the people that are going to say, well, you know what? He might have messed up, but now we're going to support him anyway. Because we saw that a lot during his presidency. He would say something and then he would go back on his word. And although I knew a lot of people here in Texas who supported him, and when that would happen, they'd say, "Oh, well, it's a one-off." I'm like, that's a lot of one-offs, but okay.
It is. It's quite a few. Makes you yearn for half of that loyalty from people that you know, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you could have that kind of just an inkling of that level of support, which kind of brings us, when it comes to him, I'm using the term rival loosely here, terms mathematically speaking, but it brings us to one of your favorite people, Nikki Haley. And so we're talking about something interesting. You educated me on something again before the podcast regarding her name that I wasn't aware of. That kind of explains one of his recent plays on words. And what was the name again?
Let me look up her name. I'm so used to calling her Nikki Haley. It's just her parents are Sikh, and I know that there's a lot of people who make their name sound more American as a way of fitting in. I understand. But in conservative or Republican politics, it takes on another level.
Trying to see, aside from Bird Brain, what the nickname was. Sorry, I can't find it. Which Bird Brain, I mean, is kind of okay. It's not even, you don't even have to issue a response to it on a program like this because it's just completely inverse to.
Like when my grandmother would insult someone. Okay, you ding dong. ooh, it got him.
No, it did. I mean, it told them. And so Haley, does she, in your mind, does she have a chance with, all right, there's two ways to look at that. Does she have a chance without a conviction? Does she have a chance with a conviction? If Trump gets convicted of any felonies?
I mean, honestly, at this point, I don't see what a conviction would do. I'm kind of at the point where I think that he would just forge ahead despite getting a felony. Like, honestly, what would that stop? I mean, we've seen so much up to this point of misbehavior from many people, senators. I mean, like, I'm looking at Texas, and I don't know if you kept up with what had been going on here with Ken Paxton, and there was a mistress and a business partner, and
yes.
It's like it just doesn't end, right? There's so much, you want to say, corruption or just shady things happening. I wish I had more faith in our justice system at this point, but I just kind of wonder what would that even do?
What?
What would that even do for Trump's potential candidacy?
I mean, I'm not even going to repeat on here some of the things you and I have talked about that he said. I mean, some of it, because it would be taken as a smear, or B, I'm making stuff up, which no, I'm not. Some of the things, you could read on here, just look up things that he said about female family members. I'll put it that way. That's
he said a lot of things.
So I mean, And my personal favorite, still of all time, though, is the wind only blows sometimes.
The whole speech on the windmills.
I mean, it is true, though. He's absolutely right. The wind does only blow sometimes, Candace.
It does. The
Right?
wind. Wing. That speech was.
It was priceless.
Sometimes I watch it when I want a good chuckle, and then I remember that it's not satire.
It's like what? Which Back to the Future was that? Back to the Future 3, where he asked him who's president in 1980. He's like, yeah, who's president in 1984? He's like, Ronald Reagan. But the actor,
Mm-hmm.
somebody from a different reality or in the past would not believe you. I mean, not only did it occur in the first place, I'm not pontificating and attacking anybody's views here at this particular juncture anyway, but it's not that it happened in the first place. It's more that train's still rolling. And that's, I don't know, maybe it strikes me more than others. But that also brings us to another big name that we had talked about and thorn in some people's side, historic namesake to others, Democrat or Republican, I'm not sure which to who, but RFK Jr. Another favorite of yours?
I don't think I have any favorites anymore.
No, come on. You told me specifically you liked the sound of his voice.
Oh, I thought that was you.
It is special, isn't it? But does that have any impact? RFK, Cornel West, Jill Stein.
Oh, Cornel West is not. He's not going to get it. And I hadn't been a fan of the guy just previously. He's a bit too pushy, in my opinion. It was a long time ago, and I'm going to have to look this stuff up again. But I'm just thinking even recently, there was a pro-Palestine conference, and there was a Jewish American. She's studying, I think, psychology. She's great. And she went to speak. And Cornel West was speaking too. And she was kind of took feedback from a lot of Palestinians saying, you're a white Jewish woman and your voice is now being centered at this pro-Palestine talk, right? There's a lot of Palestinians who also need to be speaking and have their voices heard. And I'm thinking, well, Cornel West, he's also centering his own voice right now. This isn't about him. Right. So this, he strikes me as someone who does a lot of social justice posturing, but I'm not sure that, I want him to teach a class on it. If that makes sense.
You're not sure how genuine he is.
Yeah. It seems like he's a lot for show.
So why run anyway when you know the purported stakes of this election, knowing that he could damage Democratic nominee in terms of?
Well, why would anyone run?
I mean, it's profitable and about ego.
There we go.
It's that simple. I mean, so it's that cut and dry.
Is it?
I mean, all right. So Cornel West, you got Jill Stein.
Should we tweet at him and ask him why?
What? Cornel West?
Yeah, just ask him.
We should ask him. Him and now Jill Stein. I mean, I guess she's a true believer in the Green Party banner at this point. This is what, round 3?
Mm-hmm.
You got to be a believer, right?
I don't think she'd be a horrible choice considering everyone else who's up, but she's not going to get it.
I mean, she's no Joe Jorgensen, that's for sure. I mean, but me and unfortunately not many other people know who that is. But I don't know if that's the first time the Libertarian Party has nominated a woman or not. Can't recall. But trying to think if there's any other names we're missing over here. I was talking about major names, so I obviously did not include Ron DeSantis in that list. Brumch.
Backed out.
I said this at the time that he waited too late to run. DeSantis, there was like a 6 to 8 month lull there. I get it, you just got reelected, but you can't allow Donald John Trump to move into a space first.
Oh, no, especially not with those high-heeled boots he was wearing.
Right. I mean, and I still find the whole thing laughable that he got married at Disney World. That's the height of irony to me. That you got married at the very same place that you were having an epic public feud with.
Mm-hmm.
I found that to be something of import, but so brings us to probably I don't know if it would be your favorite portion of this that we talked about doing, but definitely the one that you're the most educated person here on, and that being recent conflict in the Middle East as pertains to some are calling it a war. It doesn't necessarily look like exactly that at all times.
I would be comfortable calling it a proxy war in a sense, but from my understanding, a war has to involve two nations.
Right.
Not a nation and the people whose land it occupies and, blockades.
Right. Well, again, you know a lot about this, though, and so it's something I don't think most folks realize how tongue-in-cheek you're actually being there with that statement. It's a loaded statement. So you made the statement to me before, and I know it's a dangerous lead, and you're like, well, wait. But that there's no, at least mainstream that you're aware of, you can qualify this how you want, but there's no legal basis for the state of Israel as we know it.
I mean, that would be like saying there's a legal basis for the United States. Right? We exist because of force. We exist by force. What was interesting about Palestine, and I guess Israel specifically, is instead of just being colonies, they were mandates. So the mandate after the breaking up the Ottoman Empire, when France and Britain went in, they weren't just colonized per se, but the mandates were a way of saying, we're ruling you for now with the intention of these places becoming independent pretty soon. Which is why places like Syria and Lebanon got their independence. They were all mandates.
So I never did ask you on this point, and folks, obviously we're kind of jumping in and out of conversations that we've had, but that's the good news about this little run tonight. It's kind of a preface for what's to come. We're gonna, obviously, I know I want Candace to talk about this a lot more because of the depths of your knowledge on this, but I never did ask you with regard to specifically the conflict that was going on, conflicts in the 70s and 80s. How do you factor the Soviets into all this? Where do they, obviously they have proxies over there just like Russia does now, but they're still different.
I am someone who, having studied the Middle East, and realizing that a lot of World War II, World War I, but World War II and the Cold War were all fought in the Middle East. Like there's a great documentary on a rocket program in Lebanon that I think was socialist communist leaning and had the support of the Soviets. And of course, the US would want to shut that down. So with oil interests, the Suez, and all these routes, a lot of US and Soviet interests played out in the Middle East. You also have oil playing out in the Middle East. So you have the oil crises. You have a number of wars where the US didn't initially back Israel for a long time until oil became a problem. and control in the region. That we needed an ally that we could manipulate towards our interests. And that's when we start backing Israel.
And how far post-war was that? The state of Israel was what, 1948, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So this was in the 60s and 70s. So you have the 67 war, and then the oil crises was that?
It's the 70s.
Yeah, 73 and 79.
Yom Kippur War was what, 1973? I think.
It was the 6-day war. The 6-day war was, I gotta look up, it was 67. Yeah, there was the 73 oil crisis. Start seeing stuff pop off then too. I'm thinking they went to Lebanon in 82. Won't even get into the bombing of the Marines.
Well, yeah, great. That's obviously a completely different fiasco. So,
but well, for example, by the like mid 50s, you have everyone focusing on the Suez. So that's why you see Israel keep trying to go into the Sinai and take it from take it from Egypt.
Seize the moment.
Seize the Suez Canal and gain control of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So basically, in other words, Israel started out as more of a minor proxy, but clearly took on far greater significance as the century wound down.
Yeah. I mean, let's say they've manipulated their way pretty well into American politics.
So, yeah, I was going to ask you, so elaborate on that as far as AIPAC and elections.
I think it would be a great exercise for everyone listening to actually go look at AIPAC's own Instagram and website and just give us your feedback and tell us if you're comfortable with how proud they are of getting people elected.
Because that smacks.
They'll give you stats. They're like, 96% of the people we back get voted into office.
So
I just want to ask y'all, would y'all feel as comfortable if AIPAC was China or Iran or North Korea and they said 60 or 96% of the people we back have been elected?
A different issue. Say it was a pro-choice lobby. That would probably not be taken as well.
People would be up in arms, and
that's an odd thing to advertise.
I think it's just very interesting that we are okay with a foreign country lobby promoting that they get their interests voted in, and we're okay with that. It's just so strange to me, the level of comfort that Americans have with that happening, when in any other context they would be up in arms.
That is strange, but why advertise that? I mean, is the answer as simple as hubris? I mean, and I'm not saying this to insult. Look, I've got a number of allies, obviously, in the Jewish community. This is not about that to me.
It's not at all. No, it's not.
I mean, to me, two things can be true, and that the state of Israel can continue to exist and not have the indeliberate / deliberate, at times it might seem, killing of civilians. I think we could have both. So this isn't me being anti-Israel, but I don't know. And again, this is something we're going to talk about a number of times, but it's a strange issue because of how people it feels like, and this is anecdotal, but I think everyone can relate to it that's ever had a discussion about this issue or heard it brought up in a room of people, how immediately visceral this becomes, how immediately this becomes such a flashpoint of, a number of things. Our own patriotism, if you associate with Christianity, it's a major flashpoint. That, again, that's an entirely different conversation. It's a several parter we could have on it, but the song remains the same, right? That there's more to it than just you've got two proxies at war in the Middle East. Because it's us versus Iran and Russia indirectly, is the idea here.
Yes, I would agree with that.
But
I think that this is where studying the Middle East is such an interesting, and when I say it's complex, I mean it's complex to the extent that you need to sit down and actually study, because there are so many actors. For example, studying Lebanese politics, there's 18 different religious sects that form up like government representation. So the number of players that you have to know to study like less than 100 years of history for this small country feels more complex sometimes than studying American politics. So to know all of the groups and the actors, and you really do have to, right? So when you're studying Palestine and you study Fatah and the PLO and the PFLP and Hamas, the number of organizations that started as like cross religion, right? It didn't have anything to do with religion. It could be even secular groups of often non-violent protesters or activists of some form. And then those groups became utilized by foreign governments, by Israel, and by other actors to push their own propaganda, to push their own goals for Palestine and Israel, right? Like this is why you have Israel, because Israel, like nothing gets into Gaza without Israel's approval. Money is not going directly into Gaza. It goes through Israel, right? So if, you have Hamas leaders in Qatar or whatever, if they're sending money to banks in Gaza, it goes through Israel, right? Like Israel has some control over this. They're not funneling cash in through tunnels. That's not how this is working.
So it's kind of like U.S. politicians harping about the cartel in a sense.
Yes.
Not dissimilar from?
I would say not dissimilar from. And I think understanding cartels is a really good way to understand it. Especially to the extent that cartels provide services for the people in their communities that the government does not provide, which is why they are popular, even though they cause harm too.
Is it accurate to say that that's how you view Hamas, not just simply as a straight up terrorist organization? There's more layers to it than that. It's more like the cartel for you, or is that inaccurate?
It's still different from the cartel, right? Like they don't have the means to provide services and support really for the Gaza Strip. But I think it's very important when we look at, they're deemed a terrorist organization. Stop. Go look up the definition of terrorist and terrorist organization. Then ask yourself who fits those definitions and make a list, right? Because the U.S. actually should also be on a terror watch list by its own definition, but we're not. So you need to ask who is calling someone else a terrorist, who controls the list. Like, great. Hamas might have committed terrorist attacks. The U.S. also has, right? So right now we have the pot calling the kettle black. Everyone's hands are dirty, but these words are used to like curry public favor and sway public opinion. And you just got to be aware of this stuff, right? So going back to Hamas, tell me how IDF soldiers allowed Hamas militants to leave Gaza, travel through Israel, right? And then enter the West Bank, right? IDF soldiers at checkpoints let them into the West Bank, and Israel knew this was happening because Israel wanted someone to undermine Fatah in the West Bank, to undermine the formation of the Palestinian Authority and the formation of a strong government system or governing body in the West Bank that would have helped gain Palestinian independence or Palestinian self-governance. So it's very useful for Israel. it's very useful for Israel to prop up this terrorist organization that'll undermine efforts for legitimate government in Palestine. Like, it's very useful for Israel to do and to push that narrative.
So, spoiler alert here, this is all about the almighty dollar. I mean, obviously that's so real quick, the not that the United States of America, for our international listeners, not that we define everything, but since we need a definition of terrorism for our purposes, Title 18 of the United States Code defines terrorism as acts that are intended to intimidate or coerce civilians or government. And I mean,
so here's my question. If you look at what IDF soldiers, will call, or IOF soldiers, whatever you want to call them, do in the West Bank and how they treat Palestinians and how Palestinians are treated within the Israeli justice system itself, the amount of physical threats and the threat of violence and coercion and abuse and incarceration without representation that Palestinians are subject to is a form of terrorism. It is done to sway, it is done to instill fear within the Palestinian population. The IDF will go and train by actually breaking into real Palestinians' homes to practice raiding homes.
Sorry, it's not funny. Just a mental picture, like going out to train, and that's what we're doing.
Just going to John Smith's house down the street, you know.
Yeah, we're kicking people's doors in, like. Well, I want to take this moment, a quick caveat to for our listeners that you are not in and of yourself saying that you're anti-Israel. There's two separate issues for you, that to be about human rights and the existence of the state of Israel. That's two different topics for you.
Absolutely. I mean, and a lot of people, when they get up in arms about this, I tell them to look at South Africa. It's still called South Africa, right? They're like, well, if you got rid of Israel, where would Israelis go? And I'm like, where did white people go when South African apartheid was deconstructed? A lot of them stayed. A lot of them that left actually moved to Israel, but that's another topic for another time.
Dear God. That's a nice sidebar there. Like,
hey, just look into it, right? But it's not. People think that, by saying that the apartheid, which it is, look into Hafrada, look into. I mean, you literally have the physical separation of people and unequal rights and unequal representation, and based on racial distinctions. You do. It's on their ID cards. So a lot of
in Israel, their national driver's license, or whatever you want to call it, it distinguishes.
Yeah. So as in the West Bank, there's actually 3 different types of roads. There are like A, B, and C. A, only Israelis can drive on. B, Israelis and Palestinians can drive on. And C, only Palestinians can drive on. And so you'll imagine that the roads only Palestinians can drive on take a lot more roundabout routes, may not connect to anything else, are not maintained, and are done to
Golly.
to disenfranchise Palestinians on their own land.
So it's basically it's basically like total recall, in a sense, like there's second class world you live in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have myself just looked at some of the photos, and it's pretty extensive, the amount of damage that's been done to this. 25 square miles, is it? Or is it?
Mm-hmm. 25 square miles.
Is that accurate? Okay. Yeah, I mean, because we've had this conversation a number of times, both now, on and off the air, but we've had this conversation a number of times. It's not obviously about the right of Israel, its citizens, to exist. This quickly became something else for the folks that have not, and I'm not saying by any means don't go to the dark corners of the internet. I go to and actually look, but there's been some ghastly things done, and I understand there's hostages that have still not been returned. I'm cognizant of that, I'm cognizant of there were some awful deeds perpetrated by Hamas that day. I got it. Saw it. But I just wonder if there's a word for it in Yiddish. Maybe I need to ask some of my colleagues, but have you ever heard of overkill?
This had to do with the argument of the proportional response, right? At the beginning they really wanted to push this narrative of, what's a proportional response? What's a proportional response? To give themselves the leeway for Israel to give themselves the leeway to act in whatever means that they wanted. And the people who have been studying this a long time knew that it had nothing to do with hostages or what Hamas did. This was a great excuse for them to go and push for a land grab, which they have wanted to regain that land for settlements for a very long time. You should look up the Israeli plan to build another canal that would rival the Suez through Gaza, and that land's rockier. So they would have their own canal between the Mediterranean and into the Indian Ocean. Right? And a lot of the oil and gas off the coast of the Mediterranean, a lot of that, I was talking to a friend of mine in Lebanon who works in oil and gas, and he said a lot of the offshore rights became available. It was mid 2010 to 2020. So people have started looking at the coast of Lebanon and Israel to start drilling. And if you will notice, Israel, I think, just approved for Palestinian land rights off the coast of Gaza for people to start looking for natural gas out there. I think it was to start drilling.
So what do you think?
It's all about oil, gas, shipping rights, and land grab. It benefits Israel to take that land.
Okay, but what are the Palestinians?
What do you mean?
Well, it's only 25 square miles. Their neighborhood can't get much smaller.
They are going to push them out completely. They've already started building camps for everyone in Egypt, for everyone that gets pushed out. They're going to push them into the Sinai, which is what they have tried to do since the 50s.
So Egypt is continuing their not so tacit cooperation.
Egypt is. Why do you think Egypt has they don't the other surrounding countries? First of all, Palestinians shouldn't have to leave, and it's not the responsibility of Egypt, Lebanon, or Jordan to absorb this population. It's not their responsibility. Egypt's going through their own stuff right now. Right?
No, that's true. It's a strange situation, obviously, at number 11. I think that there's probably I would imagine some power brokers in the military-industrial complex that are going, yeah, but did it have to be Israel? We couldn't have had a war to keep the machine rolling. You had to pick the mother of all wars. You had to pick Megiddo, potential Armageddon.
I think that they have been waiting for this chance because that land is very strategic. It was worth the risk.
If you can keep it.
How would they not keep it?
Well, there's any number of things that I'm not going to utter into existence right here that could go wrong with this. This runs the risk of potentially.
Other countries would actually have to, I'll just say other countries loosely, have to start walking the walk instead of talking the talk.
That's what I mean. It would have to no longer be a proxy war at some point if it doesn't resolve itself.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can't confirm the extent of Israel's sea burning program. One way or the other. We've never confirmed whether or not us and the French have helped them with nuclear weapons. So I don't know that we want to find out. I would hope that that's not going to happen, but I'm.
The only thing that I think, I don't know, man. I don't know. You can't drill for oil if you've nuked it. You can't get people out there to work.
That's what I mean. it's difficult to see. I'm sure at some point, if Netanyahu's not, there's got to be power brokers though that are looking for an exit strategy.
Yeah, well, his entire government right now is a bunch of right wing. Like, y'all need to look into. I gotta say this. So Netanyahu's father was the protege of Jabotinsky, and Jabotinsky was one of the he was like a founder for the Irgun, which was the right wing militia, the right wing arm of the Haganah, which became the IDF. And they were the ones that committed the Nakba. So Netanyahu's father was like trained by this guy that committed the Nakba. So if you think that that rhetoric wasn't directly disseminated from Jabotinsky to Netanyahu's father to Netanyahu, and it's not surprising because if you look at the pamphlet for the Irgun, the old Irgun pamphlet, you can just Google it. The cover shows Transjordan as a map, which is Israel, Jordan, and into like Syria. And it's the Irgun, it says Greater Israel. Like that's what they believed Israel to be.
And
so you've seen Smotrich has brought this map back out and put it on his podium at a speech he was giving. So this narrative of taking all of the land around Israel has been in many Israelis' imagination since 48, since before, and they haven't given up on it. And they truly believe, right, because it's become part of this ideology. Many of them truly believe it's their right to own that land and to take it if they want it.
Well, I hope obviously that
whether or not that would happen, it hasn't yet. They tried to do it in, was it 67? They tried to, and that was part of that narrative. They were like, "Oh, we're just fighting the Arabs. The Arabs want to hurt us." Well, they attacked first, and they attacked towards the Transjordan borders. And that's why when everything started happening in Gaza, those of us who studied this were like, oh, you need to look at Lebanon and Syria because they're going to start bombing Lebanon and Syria too. And they did. And you've started seeing, it was like a month after, people in government, in the Israeli government, started saying, Lebanon, it's ours, we're going to take it again.
I mean, what about the poor Kurds?
What about them?
The world's largest ethnic group without a home to call their own.
Not the Armenians?
And they've only been with us in every major war we fought. The Kurds have fought alongside us in everything.
You want to know a funny story? So I have a lot of friends who are Palestinian. A lot of them were refugees. And one of my good friends here was talking to some friends of hers who are Palestinian refugees in Germany. And the issue of refugee and asylum status is so sensitive, especially with the way Germany and France have responded to this, that they were kind of told if they spoke out for Palestine, for their own families and homeland, and their status was revoked, they get sent to the Kurdish part of Syria, which was currently being bombed. That's where they would be like exported to. Because you can't export Palestinian refugees to Palestine. So they're not allowed to go back. So where do you send them?
Yeah, that is tricky.
Mm-hmm.
It's bad. You hate somebody enough, you want to kick them out, but like, no, you can't go home. I mean,
but it's not your home.
I mean, oh my gosh. Well,
I guess on a more positive note, for a lot of people that like, well, what's going to happen? You don't believe in it. Okay. I would recommend looking into Combatants for Peace, which is a really great organization of both ex-IDF soldiers, so Israelis, and Palestinians, some of who were militant fighters. And they come together and they do a lot of like talks, a lot of work in Germany, some are here, and they give you a good sense of what a nonviolent resolution to these issues would be. And there's another great project that you should look up. It's called Wahat al-Salam, WAHATALSALAM, or Neve Shalom.
Show notes.
Yep, NEVESHALOM. And it is a town in Israel that both Palestinians and Israelis live in. And what you need to understand is that in Israel, most Arab towns are Arab only, and most Israeli towns, Arabs, it's very difficult to live there, right? Like people don't want to rent to you, that kind of thing. So this is a fully integrated town, and they do a lot of like community integration work, and the mayor is always Palestinian. So if you wanted to see what an actual solution to what's happening would look like, you need to look at projects like these that are already being done by Palestinians and Israelis, right? Like we don't have to wonder what this would look like or argue about well, who gets to stay, who's right, like people there are already doing the work.
So it's like, hey, they have to live there, so maybe these folks have a way, a path forward. Let them determine their own destiny, and
support them in that. Oh, yeah.
Keep the Soviet Union, I mean Russia, and our plutocracy out of it, and give their piece a chance. It's not.
I'm just saying it's not quite as simple as well. Who has to leave?
Right. No, I'm not calling you John Lennon. No, not at all.
Thank you. Please.
Yeah, it's like thanks. We've probably done enough damage for one night. I'm thinking. And
do you have anything else you want to hit on?
Well, I feel like I've had some pretty mixed results tonight. So with that, it's going to be a wild year at the very least, and we'll start doing this more frequently. And I'll shake the rust off. You were ready to go from day one. I had week one blues, but no, we'll try to. We need to bring back like having the not necessarily just a funny section, but there is enough good. There's a lot of good going on out there, and in different circumstances, individual stories. We'll see. It's not all bad, but there are some unscrupulous, shall we say, people in power, and not just in America. I mean,
I wouldn't give us all the credit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I wouldn't, and it's good. I don't know if I sent you this, but there was a video I looked at. I need to add to the show notes or something, but it's like 10 minutes of different things in the last 30 years of civil moments in American politics. I'm like, man, there's minutes worth of this video. I'm shocked.
We have minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I totally. I mean, I'm sure there was plenty of tawdry stuff that went on back in the day. I don't know. Americans weren't so good at advertising it back then, I guess. It was a thing. But any parting shots for you?
No, I'll put the stuff I talked about in the show notes if you want to take a look. But
I mean,